In this video, I'm going to show you how to create mysterious looking collage papers using a super simple water resist technique. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist, and welcome to Tune In Tuesday, where I share weekly art demos to expand your mixed media toolbox. If you see value in my art demos, I would deeply appreciate a thumbs up, and if you would subscribe to my channel. Links for all the supplies to make these papers are down below under Show More, and you might also want to check out my free 5-day online workshop where I teach you how to use all the collage papers taught during Tune In Tuesday to make fabulous collages the very first try. So let's start making water resist collage papers. So this is where we're headed today. We are going to be making water resist papers, which I just think are just magical. When I saw another artist do it on Instagram, I went, oh my God, I have got to make these. Now, before I get into this though, I want to show you where all this is headed. So what I have been doing with the papers in my paper series is I will make 5 types of papers during 5 different weeks, and then I will eventually put them into a collage series. So this is actually number 3 out of 5. The other papers I've made, this is crayon resist. Then I've got the leaf prints, the leaf mono prints. And what I'm deliberately doing is using 3 primaries. So as some of you know, who've been around here for a while, I am using Hansa Yellow Light. I'm using phthalo blue green shade and Quin Magenta, plus some black and some white. And that way, when I make papers, I can be guaranteed that they're going to blend together in some way. I've already done a series like this with 5 other sets of papers twice. So this was my first series. This is with 5 different papers that I put together in a mini series. Then I did it again with 2 more collages. This is 5 more types of papers. And then again with these 2. So if you spread these out, these are all with those 3 colors, Quin Magenta, Hansa Yellow Light, and phthalo blue green shade. They all go together. So I have got a series here just by sticking with the same colors. Now they're not all the same colors. I mean, they're from the same 3 primaries, but I do add black and white, so I have different values. So what I'm focused on when I make papers is, as much as I can, I want to get papers that are light, like this. I want some medium shades, and I want some dark shades. And that is what makes a good composition in collage. So for today's papers, this is going to be the foundation for the 3rd set of papers, but I'll have 2 more papers before I actually go and turn them into a collage series, which I'll bring you with me. So I'll do that as one of my tune-in sessions. So let me put these aside. Let's start by talking about supplies. So if you saw either my reel or my short on doing this paper, I said that there was a secret ingredient. So the secret sauce to making this work is the paper you choose to do it on, which is really interesting. When I originally experimented with this, I used a really high-end copy paper and a drawing paper, and I just couldn't get it to work. And I was using other papers as well. But when I switched to a heavier paper, so this is a mixed media paper with 108 pounds, it's really thick. I also tried it on a Bristol paper. I tried it on watercolor, 104 pounds. It worked on all of the heavier papers. So doing it on a heavy paper is what at least worked for me. I have heard of people that have done this on fabric, and maybe you can get it working on cheaper papers or thinner papers, but it didn't work for me. You also need acrylic paint, which I have mine standing by here. You need some kind of wedge. So I've got a catalyst wedge. Now I tried it with other wedges. This is a fine wedge. I also tried it with a credit card. But what's interesting about this particular wedge is even if it's a tiny bit ridged, it doesn't come out as well. So the catalyst wedge just has a really sharp edge. Although it is flexible wedge, it is a very sharp edge. So this worked incredibly well. You also want some kind of pins. So I've got a really nice Faber-Castell pin. I've just got a Jelly Roll pin. You can just use cheap ballpoint pins. I've got some Sharpies. Some kind of pins to make some kind of layers on. I've got a spray bottle for water. I've also got it's an eyedropper that is going to create some kind of interest, and you need some water. So I've got some water nearby. I've got 3 kinds of papers that are standing nearby me, and I'm going to start with probably my favorite paper for doing this. So this is watercolor paper. Now, what I found in my experimentation is if I wet down my surface first, the watercolor paper or whatever paper I put down won't warp while I'm doing it. It'll stick to my table, which is what I wanted to do. So if I don't water it down first, as I apply water to this, it will curl. And curling, it'll just make the process more difficult to do. So hopefully I got enough water down there. Now, the first thing I'm gonna do that I think just makes it interesting is to scribble on the page. So I'm just gonna randomly scribble and make some marks. It doesn't matter what kind of pen you use. This is a Jelly Roll pen, but I could use a ballpoint pen. And because I've been making my series in blues, teals, I think I'm gonna go ahead and continue with that. I could make some reds. I'm in love with this particular paper, and I may just use that in the series that I'm gonna be making in my collage in just little pieces. But the main papers of this series are going to be in blues and teals. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of one of my primaries down. And for me, what I like to do is put down the lightest layer first. So I'm going to put the lightest layer on the bottom. So I'm going to add a little white to that too. I'm going to be mixing my colors right on the paper. So I'm going to take my catalyst wedge and just basically paint the paper with my wedge so I can see my marks underneath, which I like. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to put a little side piece of paper here just to get the extra paint off, which this will actually turn into a collage paper too. This is just drawing paper, but I can't actually do this process on the drawing paper I discovered. So now I'm going to take some of my blue paint, and this is not quite dry, by the way. You can do it when it's dry, but I don't need to wait. And I'm going to put down some more paint, and because I don't want just blue, I'm going to put just a teeny dab of yellow on that. By the way, I wouldn't have to put it on that. I could put it next to it. But I really want to kind of mix these colors up as I'm doing my scraping. So this turns into a really pretty teal. I mean, even that for a paper, I think looks really cool because all these scrapes, even the little dot there, showed up. So I'm going to scrape off most of my paint. I don't want a lot of paint sitting there. And then what I'm going to do is I've got a little water dish here, and I'm just going to put my hand in here, and I'm going to throw some water on it. Very random. And I'm going to wait just a second. And as soon as I start seeing there's kind of like an outline to that water, I know that it's going to work. At least I hope it will. So that's my signal that I can scrape. And again, the paint is still slightly wet. Look at that magic. It's like, oh my. I mean, I absolutely adore this paper. Now, if I scrape now, see, I just ruined it by doing it, by doing a second scrape. So the good thing about this is I think I could probably even put another layer on here. Everything is still wet. So let's see if it'll work, because I scraped off some of my beautiful little water drops, and I don't want that to happen. But I'm already seeing some separation here. So that's pretty cool. Again, I'm going to take my paint off. Let's try it again. Yeah, I got it back. Oh my gosh, I just absolutely love that. And what I think is so cool is you can see those lines underneath there. So theoretically, you could take a piece of old collage fodder that you don't like that much, that it's just like ho-hum, and do this right on top of it and make it, so you could actually see the designs underneath. I'm crazy about that. Okay, let me just try another one. Now I've got a little mess going on here, which is actually okay, because I'm actually going to use that mess as part of what we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to try this on, I think this is, what is this? This is Bristol paper. So I'm going to put just a little more water down, and it's going to mix in with the paint that I already have down here. But again, I want this paper to basically be adhered to my surface. By the way, this surface, it's a Ranger's Craft Mat. It's sold by Joggles, which I just love these things, but it's plastic. So I can get rid of all this paint really easy. Everything repels really easy. All right, so let's take a different kind of marker this time. This is the Faber-Castell marker, just to get a little bit different markings underneath. That looks good. And I'm going to do the same thing. See if I can get any kind of variety. Maybe I'll do maybe a green on the bottom. So I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow. I should have had a little more yellow though. Yellow. And I'm going to do a little bit of blue right on top. Just thinking a baby blue would be really pretty on the bottom. Okay, let me just see what this looks like. Oh, that's pretty. Maybe a little darker than I want. But here's the cool thing. All of this kind of wet stuff sitting, I can just scrape that across too. So it's kind of adding to what I have here. And again, I'm just adding this to a scratch page. And this will be a lovely piece of collage fodder too. So that's a pretty color green as my base layer. And just get extra paint on. Now let me just put some plain old blue on top. So this is my phthalo blue-green shade. Scrape that. Oh, I love that. Wow. You know, I don't know. You know, it's interesting that really dark black line, which is perfectly fine. But I think I actually prefer it with just the ballpoint. I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think. Ballpoint or heavy black line? All right. So now it's still damp. And let's try a different effect here. So I have got an eyedropper. Let's see what happens if I just take the water up in an eyedropper and in a more controlled way, drop some water down. This reminds me a lot of doing alcohol resist. Except alcohol resist is more temperamental, it takes more time, and I usually do even more layers to make that work. So I'm already getting really nice kind of white rings around. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens. Love. Oh my. Love that. So I'm not going to risk by going back a second time. But you see the little kind of lines of where I scratched it. And again, I think I would like this more if I just had a ball. But I do absolutely love that. I think it's gorgeous. Let's do another one. Okay, so what am I going to do? I think I'm going to do, I'm trying all the papers here. By the way, it doesn't matter that I'm getting my hands on this. Put a little more water down so it's a nice white surface. This is actually a piece of mixed media paper. Just make sure it's nicely adhered down. I think I'm going to do a baby blue on the bottom, you know, just mix this up a little bit. So if I'm going to baby blue, I need much more white than the blue. So this is actually turning into a lovely piece of collage fodder right here, but it's getting kind of filled up. So add another one, a new one. All right, so let me see what color I can get out of this one. And again, I'm pulling in some, you know, paint from the side, and that's perfectly okay. Kind of makes it more interesting. I got a little bit of green moving around here. Oh, I forgot to scratch in the, whatever you call that stuff, ballpoint. I wonder if I could do it afterwards. Okay, use the ballpoint. I got white scratches. Okay, this is going to actually be interesting too. Okay, that was unplanned. Now, I want to put a dark teal on top. So, a lot of blue. This is like mixing on the fly, right? You know, I love using these condiment bottles, but the paint doesn't come in these. I actually put them in these because I can do things like this. It's interesting, the yellow is coming out in streaks there, but I like that. Oh, I think that is so pretty. I mean, the cool thing about this paper is that I could stop right here. You know, I don't need to make the water drops on top. I love the movement actually. And you know, when I'm choosing collage papers, I am very deliberately choosing papers that I think would go together with the other papers I've already made. So this is kind of a quieter paper. It doesn't have as much going on. So that's why I chose it. So let's try something else. Let's try a mister and see, you know me, I like to experiment in all ways. So let's see what's going to happen if I put kind of like a misting dots here. I gotta wait a second, see if I wait till some things start showing. I mean, this is turning right here, turning into a nice abstract little piece here. All right, so I see a little bit of separation here. So let's see what happens. So it wiped off a lot of the paint. Well, okay, now here's the cool thing about this thing. So I don't really like that. So let's make it something else. We'll put some blue on it, just blue, and I'll spread the blue around. And nice that I've got some other colors coming in from the table, so it'll kind of mix it up a little bit. So I want it a little darker than the bottom layer, because that's what makes this really cool, in my opinion, because you see what's peeking out, you know, from underneath. It's a little darker. All right. Now, my favorite way of doing this is actually throwing the water. So let me randomly throw some water on here. A little more right there. Give it a second. You already see some separation going on right here. Where it's really thick paint, like some of the paint is, see if it works on thicker paint. In general, what I've found is it has to be a pretty thin layer of paint on top. Okay, I think it's ready to go. Oh, I love. Now see, I messed it up again. Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone. So this side I love, this side I messed it up with. But let's see if I can fix it by adding a couple little drops. I think I can. I think it's actually going to do the magic again. That's why this technique is so cool, because you can so-called fix your so-called mistakes by just doing another layer. Now there's some paint here. It's kind of watered down paint that's gotten on here. I'm going to scrape that down in a second, see if that did anything. Let's see. Yes, I fixed it. And now I just got a stripe here. So let's see what happens here. Nope, that didn't work. Oh well. Anyways, I adore this paper. Now, I'm going to make one more because I just realized I really want to try one using black on top. Don't know if this is going to work, so you're part of my experiment. By the way, when I did this without putting the water down on first, the paper literally, when I added water to it, the paper literally curled up. And when you add water to a curled up paper, the water rolls off, which is why I'm doing it this way. So I'm going to add the scribbles because I really like them underneath. I like the thin lines. I'm curious what you all think. I like the thin lines because they're not as overpowering to me as this. That's interesting too. Maybe if I had done like some more deliberate lines as opposed to scribble, I would like it more. All right, so I'm gonna put some I think I'm gonna make a teal on the bottom layer. I don't know what color. We'll just see what kind of color this is gonna happen. I don't know, this is kind of impromptu here. I got some really cool paint on the side though, so I can kind of mix it up with the paint that's on my table. Oh, it's really, really pretty. However, my plan, so I'm scraping off so there's not too much wetness there. All right, now what I really want to do is add, what I want to do is dark blue with a dot of black in it, which will basically make it read pretty dark. Like, that's probably too much black, we will see. But I could have put all black, at least I think I could have, and it would have been beautiful. So here goes, let's cross our fingers here. Oh, wow. Ooh. Okay, I'm digging it. Okay, so now the question is, what's going to happen when I add water to this? Now the water is blue because my hands are kind of blue, so it's turned the water blue, which I think is kind of interesting as well. Okay, so we're just going to wait here a second. Oh, that is just magical. I completely am gaga about this. In fact, I'm thinking, so, in terms of dark papers, now I've got a lovely, I don't want to touch it again, don't touch, because it's so tempting to keep scraping. This makes a beautiful dark value paper, but it's not just black. It's got all the blues and the greens, the teals, and even the yellows in it. So I think this is phenomenal. Now, I would love to put them all out and show you with them all, but I've got this major mess going on. So anyways, thank you everyone for joining me, and I will see you here next week with another paper. So have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye. To learn how to make many more types of collage papers, check out the links that are about to appear right here. And be sure to join my free 5-day online workshop, Collage Kickstart. The link to sign up is under the Show More button below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would be deeply grateful if you did. And I will see you back here for Tune In Tuesday.